Welcome everyone to our ReSourceYYC podcast today. Today we have Reena Khullar with us, and who will be speaking with our co-founder Ron Bettin. And so just so you know a little bit about ReSourceYYC, we are a professional co-working space that is set in downtown Calgary. We focus on professionals, providing many different office spaces and boardrooms and basically anything you need when you're not working from home. So if you ever need a place to check out, come see what we have. All right, over to you, Ron.
Good. Thanks, Rosemary, and thanks those joining us live today and those watching on the podcast. And yeah, I encourage anyone to come down to ReSourceYYC if you want to come check it out. We're right beside the Calgary Tower, beautiful view from the 20th floor of an office building here. And Rosemary would be happy to tour you around. So, this series actually, we've started this series actually to help build community amongst professionals and consultants in Calgary. We have a lot of people that part of members from our space, but a lot of people in Calgary who we really want to support that community and build some professional relationships between some really interesting people in Calgary. So, and I'm also a professional consultant myself. So selfishly, I get to interview and learn from a lot of amazing people. So welcome here today. And today we're really fortunate to have Reena with us today. She's the founder and CEO of Agilis Executive Consulting. Reena is an executive consultant with her backgrounds in HR leadership, strategy for global organizations in the legal, consulting, and professional services industry. She specializes in developing and implementing HR strategies unique to an organization's corporate culture, providing competitive advantage for its people, business, and strategic success. And over her career, she's helped successfully launch and led consulting firms where she supported clients with their workforce planning, organizational design strategies, while developing HR programs to complement their growth and objectives. She's a Bachelor of Commerce with a major in Human Resources Management, designated CPHR, and a member of the Society for Human Resources Management, and also certified in the US as well. So, she's also a member of and contributor to the Forbes Coaches Council. And I'm going to not elaborate too much on that because I'm going to ask Reena to tell us a bit about that as well. And she's also contributor to Entrepreneur Media. So again, there's a couple of things. I'm not going to talk about it. We'll actually have a chance to chat about it ourselves. So, and then in 2021, Reena trained to become an accredited partner with Smart Collaboration International for Smart Collaboration Accelerator. And that's some interesting things around psychometric assessments. So we will chat further about that. And I guess one last thing, it's got a quite amazing resume and background, but she's also nominated for RBC Canadian Woman Entrepreneur Award through Women of Influence organization. So congratulations on that as well, Reena. So, and welcome here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. It's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've talking. It's a small world. So you're in Calgary. We know a lot of the same people, and I think in Calgary, part of some of your success is probably networking here. But it sounds like your network had expanded around the world. So it's quite impressive. And you can tell us a bit about that whole networking as well.
Sure, absolutely. I founded Agilis back right after the pandemic had started, so May 1st, 2020. And it was, Ron, one of those things where it was on my mind for several months. Mm-hmm. And entrepreneurship, getting back out there, wanting to own my own business and just, try something different again. So I took a risk and I did it. I thought, there's nothing better than an opportunity where everyone is at home, reflecting on their workforce, their organization, the changes themselves, their personal and professional journeys. And it gave me an opportunity to talk to Forbes, agree to join their council, and place a lot of my thought leadership into writing And, at this point, it had been 20 years of human resources and a lot of professional development in my background. And I thought, if I amalgamate all of that and place it into my own company, where will it go? And I wondered, my initial thought was North America, being certified in Canada and US. And I was going to become projects, the contractor, the subject matter expert to come in and help organizations. What I wasn't expecting was it to be so easy and almost seamless to be able to connect with individuals who are reaching out in different countries, wanting to know about my work. And one thing led to another. And then I thought, you know what, this is actually an opportunity to go global if I wanted to. And I, again, took a risk and I thought it'll either succeed well or fail with grace. And so here I am.
Well, I mean, such timing. So 2020, COVID starts. So it turned out to be the year everyone figured out how to do life online. So you were kind of perfect timing for that.
It really was. It really was. And, tailor a bit of, a business development strategy and my marketing pitch to the opportunity to be able to connect with clients in different countries and talk about how remote work is working for their organizations, or even leaders starting to write articles about their journeys. Because, Ron, we often look at role models or mentors and think, in our career, we want to be guided by people who have done similar, processes to where we see ourselves in the future. So I wanted an opportunity to be able to say, it's actually, this world is a lot smaller than we think it is. It's easier to connect with leaders and executives. The title should be irrelevant. We should actually look at each other as ordinary and the same. We're actually everyday people doing the same thing, working towards the same goals. And if I were to reach out to someone nobody would want to or be intimidated by, if I can do it, anyone can do it. And let's talk about their journey. So that was kind of my angle that, it's easier. It's a lot easier to seek mentorship globally.
Yeah. So you've had, I don't want to talk about some of the interesting stories because you've actually connected and met and wrote about some interesting people, but maybe if we can back it up a bit, because your family, it's great to hear a great family story, right? And I think that sounds like part of your entire journey. So you've talked to some amazing people, but part of the people on your journey is your actual family. So do you mind sharing a bit about some of your background and maybe a bit, if you don't mind, you shared a bit about your dad and your family as an immigrant family.
Sure. No, of course. So my father, I started on the side of, kind of the core of what Agilis Executive Consulting does. I started the articles with my father's journey. And the reason I did that was because I think my father, he was so eager and ambitious and had so much drive to want to succeed in a country that he chose to call home for the rest of his life back in the 70s. So, he left his family in a small town from Punjab, and his family was very prominently known. The Khullar name is significantly, respectful in his small town. So, but he took a risk as the older son and decided, I'm going to go against the grain and leave what's here for me and seek Canadian citizenship and want to contribute to a different country and see if I can make it. And so he was educated, but of course, going through, moving to Edmonton, going to school, enrolling in courses at the University of Alberta, working nights, washing dishes, barely sleeping. We hear about those stories. Still today, it happens. I think it wasn't opportunity that was lacking for my father because, again, he worked 50 years consistently without a break, 50 years. But his journey is one that, where we're getting better. We're getting better in the world, but there is still the anti-racism that we continue to struggle advocating for, and the policies and the, DEI initiatives and strategies organizations are trying to implement. But back then, of course, it wasn't as talked about. We had the employment equity pillars that, Canada is so proud to have developed, but it wasn't working as well as it is today. And we still have a long way to go. But his struggle was, there was so much opportunity and he was so excited to be working and contributing and growing his career. And, in his mind, he felt that there has to be a title. Is it a pay grade? Is it a title that he's trying to achieve? Or where is that intrinsic motivation? But I think with that comes confidence. And so what he lacked wasn't opportunities to succeed. He lacked the confidence that caused him perhaps not to feel that he was successful. But what he doesn't realize is everyone measures success very differently. And that's where I created this series is, the extraordinary executive. I play on the on the word extraordinary. And how do we measure success? I think it's so personal and it's defined so, individually.
So you had a chance to, I'm really curious. So you've had a chance to literally reach out, and talk to other influential people and executives around the world.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you were influenced a lot by your dad, but then over that period of time of reaching out to other executives, how has that influenced your life, and what kind of influences do they bring to most people?
Well, for me, I think it kind of, Ron, seals the deal in my mind that if we were authentic and we understand our purpose and we know what we want to do with our life, both professionally and personally, it's very easy to make those connections in the world with anyone you reach out to and develop whatever type of relationship you choose to have. And what I've learned with these executives is they are actually exactly like anyone else. They're ordinary. They've had their ups and downs. No executive that I've spoken to has had an easy path. And they welcomed the opportunity for me to write about their journey because they wanted to highlight that I'm humbled, I'm flattered that I'm being reached out to because of the brand that I'm representing or because of my name. But this is my journey, Reena. This is, some of the hardships I've faced. This is what I've, been through. And they actually want to model that for others to say, it's okay to fall. It's okay to feel the lack of confidence. And whatever you succeed, even after 50 years, like my father did, that in itself is a form of success that no one else can take away from you.
So I mean, there's some really amazing stories. And I have to say, so ReSourceYYC, we're for entrepreneurial professionals. So a lot of people have their own business, or they've been consulting for a while. One of the hardest parts is starting out, right? How do you start out? How do you reach out to people? How do you connect? If you've never done it before, that's pretty daunting. And you don't even know where to start. So with your consulting business, and more specifically, when you reached out to the entrepreneurs, how did you go about that?
I actually, it's the old school cold call,
Oh,
Ron.
really?
I'll tell you a story. It's actually quite funny.
Yeah.
I was 18 and I had just returned from the UK, and I'd worked there for several months, and I returned, and it was the period between starting university. So it was that summer, and I needed pocket money. So I joined the Edmonton Sun. The Edmonton Sun needed people to cold call and sell that Edmonton Sun. I joined. I thought, this is great. I worked. It was day 2. At the end of the shift, there was the manager had everybody come into the boardroom, and I thought perhaps we were celebrating, I don't know, a birthday. And next thing you know, they're giving me these cupcakes and saying congratulations. And I thought maybe it was like an office bingo. I thought, and they're giving me this envelope of cash. I was like, wow, I just won a bingo. I didn't even know I participated. But what it was is that in 2 days, I was able to sell significantly more than my peers in 48 hours, the Edmonton Sun. And I was humbled, but I also thought, because I didn't last more than a week there, I thought, if I can sell the Edmonton Sun, which is, a fantastic newspaper to some degree, that's political discussion, but if I can sell the Edmonton Sun and I'm representing that brand, what else can I sell? Because I actually didn't find that really hard. So I guess that was, we're going well over 20 years ago, but what I found about myself, what I learned about myself is that if we know who we are, and if we have confidence about our ability to, sell our service or our product, and know that we have a niche, We just have to be able to find the confidence to do it and find that motivation and the drive. So that's the purpose part. Where my purpose is to help people find where they can reach their highest potential, and I'll be right there to help them do it. So if we can find that, I think that anything is possible. So when I reach out to individuals to want to do work with them across the globe, they don't know me. And when they get to understand what I'm trying to do and, read the bio and go beyond Reena's bio and figure out some of the work I've done, because it's intangible. Consultants, we're selling our time. So we have to be able to show the value of our time. I've learned how to show the value of my time. And because of that, it's appreciated and it seals the business deal for me.
Well, it's great advice, because that is one of the things. There's a lot of, especially in our community here, a lot of professional engineers, accountants, lawyers, other HR people. So they're very good at what they do. The hardest part is to market and sell themselves to others, that they should be the one to do it. So it sounds like some of the advice is, know yourself, know what you're worth. It's a bit of that understanding the why, right? And be able to communicate it very quickly and succinctly to people so it connects.
Right, absolutely, 100%. And that's where I come in and I show them how. So I call Agilis as we show you how, but you need to do the work on the who, what, where, when, and why, and then we'll come in and show you how. So my recent series, Beyond the Bio, just does exactly that. Is it looks at executives, these beautiful biographies that are written on websites that gravitate to people who want to work with them or follow them as influencers, like Mike Holmes, for example. But reaching out to, for example, Mike Holmes, it's like, well, let's go beyond the bio. We know about Mike. We know the wonderful work that he does across the world, in the charitable organizations. But I wanted to find out more about his why, his purpose. And so when I went through and was able to talk about his who, what, where, when, why, and he defined his how, it shows individuals that there's so much more about someone that we're perhaps afraid to approach, where they're actually very humble and they're exactly like we are. And it took him work to find it.
So let's use Mike Holmes, for example. Is that something that he could articulate clearly already, or through the process of just chatting with him, you're kind of able to bring it out of him?
I think both. I think a little bit of both. I think he was very clear on his purpose. So I think the questions were very easy for him to answer because he understands himself very well. And he's very grounded. And like every other leader that I've reached out to, and all of my other clients under the extraordinary executives or beyond the bio, they're very grounded. They've had a lot of life experience that's probably humbled them along the way as well.
Mm-hmm. So you've read all the way across. You actually were one of the bios is fellow Roberto over in Dubai. Tell us a bit about him.
Roberto is he's incredible as a leader because he's got this creative entrepreneurial energy. Roberto was he's born and raised in Milan, just north of Italy, and his family, he was born into a family of entrepreneurs. So from very young, he tells us that he's been eager to do his own entrepreneurship. And his path took him to Google. Google hired him to move to Dubai, and there he was in charge of building the entrepreneurial infrastructure for Russia, Israel, the Middle East, Africa. So communities and countries that thrive and need entrepreneurs to run their economy. And so then Microsoft, of course, heard of him, and he moved over there and took his creative, entrepreneurial, innovative energy and ideas and created under the Microsoft for Startups banner the exact opportunity for Africa and the Middle East.
Wow.
And he's pretty incredible because what he does is he's constantly mentoring. And what I learned about Roberto is there is no risk that he wasn't willing to take. He knew himself so well. And he was so diverse, he was so open to exploring diversity in different cultures that he recognized that in a lot of cities, Dubai and the Middle East, for example, entrepreneurship is their bread and butter. So it's their survival for a lot of people. And so helping them and giving them the tools to succeed in that country was, I think that's what is Roberto's intrinsic motivation. I think that's where he gets a lot of his drive.
So it was less from working for Google, more about what he could contribute back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so. His success, he measures success through the success of others. So
Yeah.
that's his definition of success.
A bit of your dad's story, right? You said he probably could have done other things, but he was actually, he got fulfillment out of the things he did, right? Which is quite amazing. I think a lot of people need to stop and think about that a bit, right? Because they're always striving for something else and not appreciating where they're at, right?
I know. And sometimes, Ron, as consultants, and you probably face this a lot too, is sometimes you need someone to come in objectively and show you what you can't see in your mirror. I use that, with my coaching one-to-one clients, is I say, I'm going to bring your mirror. And there's some hard, really tough messages that I end up delivering, but not in a subjective way because I don't know them well enough, but very objectively to show them that if they were authentic and if they tried not to be who their influencer or their role model was, but try to understand that journey and use that as a guide and, someone that inspires them, but find the inspiration in yourself. There's a lot of coaching. There's a lot of inside work. There's a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah. So what does a typical engagement with a client look like for you?
For me, if it's a coaching client, we do a lot of one-on-one work to understand their leadership, where they see themselves going. And when we talk leadership, we're also talking about, individuals who are entrepreneurs, and they could be solopreneurs and may not have a team, but we're all leaders. We all wear that hat no matter what. So a lot of that is finding your how, figuring out your how, talking about the who, what, where, when, why, building that model of who we want to be, where we want to go, understanding our skill set. And it may not necessarily be what we want it to drive ourselves to. We find out a lot about ourselves when we start doing some work through psychometric assessments as well.
Yeah, okay.
Behaviors.
Yeah, so you use that as one of the tools. So that's more than just individual as well. Do you deal with larger organizations and go in and help them with that, or
I do,
or primarily with the executives?
So it's two arms of my business. So the larger organizations, that's the HR consulting piece. And I come in and more like the subject matter expert, and I help with projects. I help with projects that are a lot of change management initiatives, many talent management strategies and organizational designs, especially through the pandemic, because we are seeing organizations change and their workforce is changing and evolving. And so there's two very different arms. And on the other side is the one-to-one coaching with, my clients who are entrepreneurial or lawyers who are looking to, leave private practice, or a lot of realtors, the construction industry, for example.
And you say a lot of your background, we didn't really talk about this much, a lot of your background in HR was with law firms, was it?
It was, absolutely. I grew that professional services. Prior to law firms, it was with Hewitt Associates, which is now Aon. So I was right there, during the merger when Aon overtook Hewitt Associates. So a lot of the learning about your time. Again, when we're selling our time, we don't have a tangible product that we can showcase. So we have to use our experience the way I've learned how to through my writing to build credibility and to establish those relationships in that way.
Do you find a lot of your learning, so you're an HR professional, but do you find a lot of your learning came out of the profession or from the professionals that you actually worked with?
Likely the professionals that I ended up working with. Not to say the profession wasn't helpful in growing my career, it certainly was. But I think there was a lot of self-professional development, a lot of reading, a lot of study, a lot of learning by watching others and how they, especially lawyers, how do they choose to value their time and sell their time? Because they don't teach marketing 101 in law school. They really don't. Lawyers are fantastic at doing what they do, truly. But they don't teach client development and marketing 101. So they need to understand who they are in order to be able to sell their time. And that's new to them. And when I come in and say that, they look at me. And that's, again, the professional development departments in law firms are growing as a result of that.
Is that you find a typical type of situation a lot of law firms and professionals are in, that I don't want to say blind to it, but they really need someone to kind of coach them through, just to be aware of some of the self-marketing and marketing, and really, it almost sounds a bit like personal branding as well.
It is absolutely personal branding. You know, law firms are significantly advanced in their client development departments. They have leaders for that, and their professional development department. They have leaders for that. And what they do is they're the support services to help their lawyers succeed, help their lawyers from articling to associates, into counsel, and into eventually equity partnership. And that success is based a lot upon growing the brand or representing the brand. So when we represent the law firm that they're working for, ultimately that's important, but the client wants to work with the lawyer. And so the brand will help you, but you need to go out and be able to secure those clients. And it's based on who you are and the work that you're producing, the solution that you're producing.
So lawyers, so you actually, so to kind of jump around a bit, but you end up working with a lawyer over in Poland then, right? I'm assuming that this Karina at Denton's, was it through a law contact, or how in the world did you get working with someone and writing an article on someone in Poland?
You know, it's incredible, Ron. I connected with Karina a few years ago on LinkedIn. And the reason I connected with her was because she had developed a program called Next Mind. And the Next Mind program talks about mindfulness. And it was at a point in my life where I was very, very interested in learning more about mindfulness and how to integrate that for clients and to organizations. So when I launched Agilis, I connected with her immediately, and I wanted to understand her journey. And I that was as simple as that. Is would I, you know, could you give me just 5 minutes of your time? I want to understand your journey. And next thing you know, she was this just fantastic, so open and transparent leader that welcomed me literally into her home via Zoom and spent hours with me talking about her journey, which is, you know, something that she'd like to write about. One day she talks about, you know, writing a book about her journey. She is one of the top litigators in Europe, and she was very, very sought after. Wow. She worked as a legal counsel in management consulting firm. And when Denton sought after her, they wanted her to grow their tax litigation department across Europe. She did that very successfully. Along the way, you know, her success was growing, but what she didn't realize was she wasn't tapping into how she was feeling. So now we're getting into those emotions that with lawyers are so trained to be stoic and so trained to litigate in a certain way. And they're not used to dealing with their own emotions despite dealing with their clients' emotions. So she fell hard. She talks about her journey on, depression and where that led her, and how she wasn't sure if she could ever work again, and where she found the intrinsic motivation to understand who she was, and then went through mindfulness training herself. And her success story is that she developed a program. She returned to Denton's in a different role, created this role that talks about mindfulness and how important it is for lawyers to talk about mental health awareness and reach out and talk and learn about themselves. So now other law firms are actually looking at Denton's initial flagship model of the Next Mind program for mindfulness, and they're integrating and talking about and having those conversations about it's okay not to be okay. And it was Karina, for me, when I look at Karina, she's a role model for me because she was leading that across the globe, and she didn't even know it. She's so humble. She didn't even realize the impact.
So it was a nice little opportunity for you to write about her then and highlight her
Absolutely. A bit. Absolutely. I felt so, honestly, it was just with humility. I say it, Ron, that she gave me an opportunity to pen it, you know, in a very succinct way before she decides to write her book. So I do feel honored.
That's awesome. And we only have a few minutes left. We're going to try and keep it within 35 minutes or so. But you have, so where your articles are, do you have any new articles or anything coming out that we should be watching for?
The final article. So I had this idea, Ron, where, okay, I launched in 2020. I'm going to look for 20 leaders that I could write about and see where that goes. So the final one is mine. And it's by request by the executives that I've written and other clients who, you know, don't know me as well. They don't know, like, who is Reena? Who is Reena behind Agilis? And I thought, you know, if I've been asked, in fairness, I think I'll close up the series and talk about my journey. I have a long way to go. I learn every day, Ron. I have so much further to go. But if I can share anything from, my humble upbringing with my parents and my father's journey from Edmonton and how I came to Calgary and, what the last 20 years have looked like, I'm happy to do so.
Part of the success is you came to Calgary for sure, right?
Oh, well, Edmonton is hometown, and you know what? The Oilers will always be my team.
Well, if you want a challenge to go back and really challenge yourself, try selling that Edmonton Sun to Calgarians.
Yes, absolutely. That's right. I should go back and visit.
So I can't say my sister's actually up in Edmonton and we have a running battle. So, but I'm glad you're in Calgary. And maybe just to recap. So if someone wants to engage you, either locally or internationally, how do they best get in touch with you, and kind of what are the main services you offer them?
Sure. Thank you, Ron. The best way to get in touch with me is through email, LinkedIn, or phone. And all of that information is on my website.
Which is, your website is
agilisexecutive.com.
Okay, and we will post it. We'll post it after as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And anything from human resource projects to executive coaching to leadership development, and or even just to understand who they are through one-to-one coaching, and entrepreneurs who are startups don't know where to start. We can help operationally start them from the ground up. So I've got this wheel, I call it the globe, on my website, and it taps into all the services that we offer. And there's nothing we feel that we can't do to help someone start from scratch, or to come in midway, or to come in at the end when people are transitioning to retirement as well.
There's a lot of people who promote their services but haven't really had a lived experience. So you are an entrepreneur, you're a professional. There's a lot of things you've done that kind of gives you some street cred to the services you offer. So wishing you all the success, and hope some people get a chance to connect with you. And I'm glad we had a chance to connect.
Oh, so am I. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, and again, we'll post the information on the website. Rosemary, I'll hand it back to you to close, and then if there's anybody who wants to stay on, and we'll have a little Q&A after the podcast ends, so you're welcome to do that. So thanks again, Reena, and we're now that the end of the light at the end of the tunnel for COVID, we'll actually have a meeting right down. We'll have a little fireside chat down here at ReSourceYYC sometime in person.
Sure, I'll come visit you downtown. Absolutely.
Perfect. Good. Thanks again. Back to you, Rosemary.
All right. Thank you very much. That was a really interesting conversation, and I hope everyone got a little bit of information to think on from that. And just sometimes it's not an experience isn't a negative. You just have to have experienced it, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, definitely everyone check out ReSourceYYC, and thank you for joining us. Have a great day.